Good morning, everybody. Well, and good day if you're watching this a little bit later. It is now day 3 of DocLands, and everything's been going well. We've had some terrific screenings in all of the theaters and some amazing guests. And today we've got Katya Soldak with us. Her film is The Long Breakup. And when we saw this film, Kelly, I know you felt the same way. It was just, of course, so timely, but also the structure of it, Katya, we really enjoyed.
It was very eye-opening too.
Yeah,
It gave me all sorts of different perspectives that I hadn't realized before.
exactly. It's a personal film. So, Katya, why, like this was before this war was going on in Ukraine. You finished it in 21?
So the official end day when the film was released was 2020. And the war in Ukraine was going on for quite a few years by then. So the film was made to talk about Ukraine, to share the story about Ukraine. And unfortunately, this whole newly discovered relevance was caused or prompted by this Russian aggression that started on February 24th. But the war in Ukraine was ongoing. And I am Ukrainian, I'm a Ukrainian American. And I always wanted to share a story about Ukraine. So Ukraine turned 30 years old in it got independence in 1991. So in 2021, I wanted to show my film just to share the story about Ukraine and not only talk about the war or struggles, but also show what a beautiful and interesting country Ukraine is. So the timing was right. And no one could foresee that this escalation would happen.
Right. But as you say, the war has been continuing since
2014.
2014, yeah.
When Russia annexed Crimea and occupied the eastern territories of Donbass, but it was contained in the eastern part of Ukraine. And in my film, I do talk about the war.
Yeah, and that's what I also love about your film is you made it easy to watch because it's not an easy topic. But you made it easy from being from such a personal point of view, and all how your mother is included in that, and just your personal stories, and even you were able to even insert a bit of humor in it.
Thank you.
And so it's not just a really heavy film. It's which of course it's a heavy topic, but it does make it easier to watch. And
you made it very personal with your family in it and all, and it's like 1,000 different stories that is going on.
That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk about Ukraine not as some kind of abstract concept, but to show how these huge geopolitical changes that people see on TV, in the news, people who are slightly older, they've seen the Berlin Wall falling or this Iron Curtain going away. But I wanted to show how regular people like myself, millions of other Ukrainians or former Soviet people from former Soviet republics, how they experience these kinds of changes and what it means for regular people.
And exactly what happens to people going through that, because we're so remote from all of that, and to be able to understand it better, I think makes a huge difference. And as we're seeing now, people who are really wanting to dig in and help in whatever ways they can. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm happy to share the context behind this war. Everybody's talking about it. It's in the news. People see updates, but not many people understand the bigger picture or historically how everybody arrived to that. So I'm happy that I have the film that is relevant and I can show it. And as you said, it's entertaining. So it's not some just bombarding with facts, and it's easier to relate to what's happening today after watching my film. So in that regard, I wish my film did not have that relevance. The reason for that would not be there, but I have it and I'm happy to share. And I'm getting overwhelming feedback from the readers, I mean, from the audience, from people who watch it, that it does provide a lot of information, and glad that I could do it.
And the other part of it too, because your background, you're a journalist. And I think that makes a huge difference, because as a presenter, you have a bit of a savvy way of presenting their facts.
Well, the facts are important in a world where, you know, everybody believes whatever they want to believe, and there's always information war going on, no matter which subject you touch. I did try to stay true to the facts, to present some, it's, you know, I'm not going to go into all the details, but in general, every fact in the film is checked by a couple of different sources. You know, it's not something that someone says or I think.
Right.
Well, that was
accurate.
What was marvelous about it for me is to give it the historical perspective, you know, for myself. And like, I know a lot of people is all of a sudden Ukraine, it comes up.
Where is it? Is it a small country? Is it a big country? Where is it? Is it Russia? You know, I mean, unfortunately, 30 years of independence did not bring that clarity to some parts of the world. And now I hope that everybody knows. And with the help of my film, people could see the evolution, the change in all the, I mean, it's about Ukraine, but I think it was similar for a lot of other former Soviet republics, how they developed their own identity after they got independence, and how people gradually became more aware of their nations and of basically what they are and where the country and the people with the country where they want to go.
And I think too, as we're seeing now, the other countries that border Russia are taking note, and hopefully that will help the rest of the world realize that it may not stop. As we've seen, it didn't stop now with Crimea.
Well, it didn't stop with Georgia in 2008 when Russia annexed territories. Then Moldova also has some territories that are occupied, and it was too small to pay attention to, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. It's a very difficult conversation. I feel like the world should have paid more attention and contained the aggression right then when it first happened. And now it escalated to the point when millions of people are suffering in Ukraine. It's over 5 million people who are outside of Ukraine now, the refugees. A quarter of the population has been displaced because they moved from eastern sides to the western sides. And even in the western side of Ukraine, they're not safe anymore because they've been bombed by Russian forces. And the casualties, the deaths toll, we don't know yet. I just know that it's about 250 children. At least they were able to count, not including territories that are occupied right now. And the city of Mariupol, the southern port of Mariupol, has been basically destroyed, like erased from the planet. And we didn't get there yet, so we don't know how many victims and what atrocities happened there. So I do feel strongly that understanding that region is important, and my film can bring a lot of context.
It can, and so much understanding. And I'm so grateful actually for your film, because like Kelly, I learned a whole lot, and it makes a huge difference in how we relate to it, what we want to do, what we can do. And is there anything that you'd like to tell folks, you know, any feelings or what would make the most difference?
Well, for Ukraine, I think understanding the situation is probably the most important, because information comes and goes and people take advantage and pushing messages that are not correct. So checking the facts when you look at the news, whether it's propaganda or not, who's behind, who's financing the outlet. I think this is, at this time, it's super important, because Russia still has a lot of money despite all the sanctions, and they're still pushing messages that are not true in any way. It is not one side or the other, and the truth is in the middle. There is propaganda, and then there is a whole other thing. But if we go back to my film, for instance, I think watching it would be helpful, either it's today with this festival or somewhere else later, because it is, as you said, easier to watch, and I included a lot of music in it. It's entertaining. It has a cat in it. It's not, heavy, because I made it before this escalation happened, so it might even feel a little bit lighter. But at the same time, now I'm thinking it's actually good if people see Ukraine for what it was, not destroyed country that's been attacked, but the country that actually was flourishing and developing. And despite the war in the eastern part, over the past 8 years, Ukraine definitely became super European, very democratic, driven, set for success and open to any interesting ideas from the world. And I think it's good that this is the Ukraine that we see in my film.
Yeah. And you know what else?
One thing I was wondering is how you got access to all that archival footage of the history. It's amazing.
I'm a journalist, and I'm, I guess, a hoarder for information and footage. And, I have like boxes with little notes and whatever. So when I was making this film, I just kept going through, and then when I needed archival footage, of course, I knew where to go to big archival houses in Ukraine. Then I had some tapes from my previous work in Ukrainian television. It just takes a person like myself to collect all of that.
Well, you are a journalist.
Well, and I was going to say too, the other thing that made me, when you mentioned about seeing Ukraine for what it was, I went and watched a couple of the episodes of Zelensky's sitcom,
The Servant of the People.
Servant of the People on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, yeah.
And I was just, I was in tears watching, because you see, the way it was, and the beauty, like you say, and how European it was and is still. But in all its beauty. So that was huge for me too.
Well, when you were thinking about the structure of the film, did you imagine that you were going to be the central figure? And what was it like having a cameraman follow you around on the streets?
I didn't want to be that person. I was pushed into it by pretty much everyone who saw different cuts of the films, and they wanted me to give them more and more. And I eventually just gave more. I also, I'm joking, but at the end, since I filmed it over the years, I did have unlimited access to my family and my friends, and it helped to see the evolution of the person as they were living through the years. I can't imagine who else would let me film them or follow them for like that many years, and to have that intimate access to changes that were happening to them.
Well, I think it was a great choice, because you're great on camera.
Brings up a thought about what's your daughter doing now?
Well, she's here with me at the festival, and she comes to film screenings with me. Sometimes she advocates on behalf of Ukraine as well. In Ukraine, we have a lot of protests, and everybody who has Ukrainian connection does their best, whatever they can do. And since my daughter, although she was born in the States, we used to go to Ukraine all the time. She's very much connected, and she's just like many other Ukrainians and non-Ukrainians.
Exactly.
Helping as much as we can.
Well, and so your film is playing today at 5 p.m. at the Rafael. So hopefully all you folks, it's so worth seeing, and it's a really great education. Thank you for coming in today and talking to us. Yeah. And I want to also say that tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we have actually a DocTalk panel that is taking place at the Rafael Theater. So come on down to that. It's about climate change and extinction. And we've got some great filmmakers there. So thanks for watching, and thank you to Make It Better Media Group for being our DocTalk sponsor.